जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तब शुभ नामे जाने तब शुभ आशीष माने गाहे तब जय गाथा जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manzul CM. His Excellency, the Chancellor of Tezpur University and Governor of the State of Assam, Professor Jagdish Mukhi, our esteemed keynote speakers, Professor Manzul Hazarika, the Director, GIC Asian Institute of Technology, Bangkok, Professor Virendra Kumar Vijay, the National Coordinator of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan and a professor at IIT Delhi, my own colleagues, Professor DC Baruah, the Director, Internal Quality Assurance Cell and Head of the Department, Asian Institute of Technology, Energy, Bangkok, Professor Virendra, Professor Joya Chakraborty, Head of the Department, the National Coordinator of Unnat Journalism, my colleague in the administration, Dr. Virendra, and all the participants from abroad and India. On behalf of Tezpur University and on my personal behalf, it's such a privilege and honor to welcome you all on the occasion of this webinar, the Sustainable Technologies and Rural Development, a Gandhian Perspective, which is being jointly organized, as has been mentioned, by AIT Bangkok and Tezpur University, which is located in northeastern part of India and is one of the most premier institutions in the field of higher education in the country. As some of you may be familiar with Gandhi's principles and some facets of his life's journey, all of you would attest to the fact that Gandhi was an extraordinary human being. The famous scientist Albert Einstein had once remarked, and I quote, "Generations to come will scarcely believe such a one as this ever in flesh and blood walked upon this earth." Gandhi was a common, aspiring young Indian barrister who got his law degree from England and who later transformed to a formidable crusader for fighting racial discrimination, injustices, and oppressive colonial rule, not only in South Africa and India, but also gave inspiration to many world leaders who were also fighting against the racial discrimination and the colonial rule. People lovingly gave Gandhi for all his contributions the noble title of Mahatma. In fact, some of you who might have read a bit about Gandhi's life, and I have read his autobiography, and that's where it is mentioned that Gandhi did whatever he did and all he could. It's all because of his moral strength, which he derived from spirituality. And countries in the previous century, but those principles and values are still relevant today in present times and would continue to be relevant in future too, if we have to address some of the pressing challenges of the present century. Gandhi spoke on practically everything and gave views on all aspects of our lives. But his cardinal and unshakable faith in non-violence, compassion for all, peace and justice, and his views on role of science in progress of humanity, good governance, development, environment, empowerment of people, and life of dignity for all are so relevant in the present day context. In fact, if you look at some of the sustainable development goals, the goal 1, goal 2, goal 6, majority of these goals, no poverty, zero hunger, clean water and sanitation, good health and well-being, responsible consumption, strong institutions, and the concept of sustainable development itself. In fact, you would find a resonance with his thoughts and principles. Our world, especially the rural areas, which account for nearly 60% of the world's population, and mainly those in South Asia, Southeast Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, and Latin America. The areas which are crying out for meaningful development, a development which is in harmony with nature, which is sustainable. I think Gandhian philosophy is so crucial to follow. So with these words, I welcome you once again and look forward to the address of our Honorable Governor, who also has been an academician in Delhi University, and I look forward to the addresses of other keynote speakers. I now humbly request Honorable Governor Professor Jagdish Mukhi to inaugurate the webinar. Thank you.
Namaskar. Esteemed panelists, participants, and viewers, I hope you all are doing well. Gandhian perspective of suitable technologies and rural development. In order to understand this topic, one needs to understand the locus and focus of Gandhian philosophy. Let me first deal with the locus, that is context. Friends, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, the father of the nation, had his grooming in South Africa, and soon after his return to India, like Vivekananda, undertook a national tour to personally see, experience, and understand the real India. This pan-India tour made him realize the nature of Indian subcontinent, its rural and agrarian socio-economy, its unique set of social systems and economic functions. These unique aspects and initial experiences created a lasting impression and formed the foundation for further evolution of Gandhian socio-economic vision for India. Gandhiji's principles of Satyagraha, Ahimsa and Abhiyan form the crux of Gandhian philosophy. Gandhiji observed that while the colonial superpowers and other Western countries have progressed with the Industrial Revolution, India was largely an agro-weaving rural economy with very little industrial growth. About 90% of the then population of our country was rural and agrarian. In such a scenario, with a colonial government that wanted our country to remain a market, Gandhiji realized that industrialization would not start in the near future unless India attains independence from colonial rule. Gandhiji also thought of a model consistent with the political, economic, and social context of the time to engineer the emergence of our country from the cloud of that prevailing time. Let me quickly touch upon these three contexts, that is political, economic, and social. First, political reality of the time was India was a colony, not just a colony, but fragmented into British India and nearly 556 princely states in very diffuse manner. Second, economically, India remained in the pre-industrial era and was an exploited colony of the colonial power, providing raw materials and cheap labor at low cost, and instead was burdened to be the market of the processed and industrially valued added goods from industrially advanced colonial powers. Third, sociologically, India was a very traditional with various ethnic diversities that also created distinction in the name of caste, creed, language, and religion, among others. In such a complex scenario, Mahatma Gandhi realized that the greatest need for India was Swaraj, which alone can usher the paradigm shift in the country's socio-political economic independence. This was amongst the core locus or context of Gandhian philosophy. Friends, Gandhiji constructed his socio-political economic philosophy as an integrated concept and not an isolated one. Satyagraha, Ahimsa, and Abhiyan were seen as the core and absolute moral foundation upon which the Gandhian superstructure was constructed. Gandhiji realized that to attain Swaraj, based upon the core principle of Satyagraha, Ahimsa, or Abhiyan, an anti-colonial integrated alternative is to be constructed. With that objective, he evolved the concept of Gram Swaraj. Though Gandhiji was deeply religious and devoted to Lord Rama at the personal level, his concept of Rama Rajya is to be seen not as the religious principle but as a lofty moral ideal ingrained on tenets of welfare of all. Gandhiji realized that in order to realize Swaraj, we need to be independent of products of colonial masters, which have made us neo-slaves, consumerism, and this slavery will perpetuate the tyranny. To overcome this, he popularized Gram Swaraj, where the traditional village economy of the rural India could thrive in autonomous manner by becoming self-dependent. He thought that if villages which formed the bulk of the heathen India became self-dependent, the parasitic model of deprivation of India would stop. Also, he believed that the countrymen would then become not only economically free, but socially empowered to answer the high moral call, be ready sacrifice, become fearless of the colonial power, and become united to fight for and realize Swaraj. Gandhiji realized that the might of the colonial power cannot be challenged with arms, as the very murmur of protest would be suppressed by colonial power with the brute force. Also, the moral strength of countrymen, their fear of the colonial power, their divisions along various fault lines need to be addressed. A mere social, political, or economic movement will fail to sustain in the scenario that prevailed in India at that time, unless the moral, emotional chord of masses was touched. Any movement for political, economic, social freedom would not be possible. Thus, Gram Swaraj became the bedrock of his political and economic approach. Sustainable technology and rural development are subsets of Gandhian concept of Gram Swaraj. Traditional Indian rural economy perhaps lacked the virtues of industrialization, but never lacked creativity, innovation, and adoption. Every village was unique in the way implements were designed, used, and improved. This is an indicator of rural technological development and innovation. Also, the villages, with their comprehensive components of skilled tradesmen and artisans, ensured a level of self-dependence and autonomy. Gandhiji felt that this economic model of Gram Swaraj, wedded with Satyagraha, Ahimsa, and Abhiyan, under the objective of realizing the spirit of Ram Rajya, would help achieve Rashtriya Swaraj. Gandhiji favored sustainable development as a natural corollary to the Ram Rajya, or for that matter, Gram Swaraj. Non-industrial rural economy prevailing at that time in India was not exploitative but integrative and tuned to nature and available natural resources. Consumerism was very limited. Monetization of economy was very meager. In such a scenario, there was limited exploitation of nature. Caravans of traders or sea trade was in its infancy and not comparable to present scenario. Industrialization of West was denied to colonially subjugated India, which was seen as a market and politically and economically dependent territory. Gandhiji, who had traveled the West and seen the exploitation in Africa, developed an alternative model. Sustainability was given in his concept of Gram Swaraj based on rural development model. Friends, Gandhian philosophy is very practical and relevant in the current context also. Considering the fact that India is a largely agrarian, the core concepts of self-sustainability and comprehensive rural development are the key approaches to national socio-economic development. In the prevailing situation, when we are fighting hard against COVID-19, Atmanirbhar Bharat, launched by Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, is very much a Gandhian economic approach, focusing on self-dependency and autonomy. It's a well-accepted proposition that only a nation that is strong and self-dependent in core sectors of the economy will stand tall and self-assured in the Committee of Nations. Dear friends, I would like to conclude with warm wishes to the organizers to have organized such a thoughtful, provoking webinar and invited me to inaugurate the same. I have shared the locus and focus of Gandhian philosophy, including the issues pertaining to the topic. It is the 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi ji, a legend whom future generations find amazed to believe as having lived in our midst in flesh and blood. Let's follow footsteps of this greatest of human beings. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir, for reminding us of our father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, and his contribution not just to India but to society as a whole, which we continue to take benefit of even today. We are honored to have you join us today, sir, to inaugurate today's program. May I now request Professor D.C. Baruah, Coordinator Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, Tezpur University, for the introductory note highlighting activities of organizing institutes relevant to the theme. Sir.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Professor Gandhis Vision, Chancellor of Tezpur University and Governor of Assam, my esteemed Vice Chancellor, Professor VK Vijay, all our esteemed speakers, Professor Virendra Kumar Vijay, Dr. Manzul Kumar Hazarika, Madam Chakraborty, all my colleagues, and all the participants reaching around 1,500 from India, Thailand, South Africa, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. I am told that registrations have come from these areas also. I am very happy to give the little background about this particular webinar. Two honorable speakers have already highlighted the perspective of Gandhi's relevance of the Gandhian thought in today's context of higher academic institutes, as well as the context of economic context, the social context, the political context that was thought required at the time, and the present day relevance, including the Atmanirbhar Bharat, and the present crisis caused by the COVID. I am tempted to tell you about the Tezpur University's humble initiatives and about the mandate of the sustainable technology, sustainable development, to inculcate among the learners that we are doing by providing different curriculum, different component of the sustainability in its curriculum, also in different practices. For example, the green campus, little green campus that we have in a rural background in this northeastern corner, as our Honorable Vice Chancellor has already told, we are recirculating the nutrients of the fallen leaves. We are not allowing to waste the leaves, and thereby we are reducing the consumption of the chemical fertilizer. This has been a practice since its inception, and we are really proud to be part of it. Our learners are getting benefit to learn it. This is only one of the many our initiatives. The solar power as one of the renewable energy sources is now major contributions of this support of this energy. This is another example of sustainable way of doing. We also are doing, as we are surrounded by different, only the rural areas, the understanding, the integrating the rural thought, rural issues among the curriculum to train our students has been also in our agenda. In recent times, we are benefited by the UBA Unnat Bharat Vision program. 5 of the villages, nearby villages, located among this Sunitpur district of Assam, which around 13,000 population and around 3,000 households have been considered for this UBA program, and we are benefited to take it as if it's a laboratory for us to show the path of sustainable development. And in this context, we understood the technology, the modern day advanced technology has also a role. Professor Virendra Kumar Vijay, who has really from the Tezpur University community, we are thankful to you, sir, agreeing to address this webinar by which we understand the relevance of the Gandhian thought, that part, and then UBA program, and how higher education institutes with this UBA program would help us to strengthen our academic programs as well as to deliver as per the expectation of the society, expectation of the government, this UBA program. So that way, all of us are evaluating for this UBA integration to higher education institutes and then sustainable technologies, how rural development could be achieved. Dr. Manzul Kumar Hazarika, who worked on this particularly geospatial techniques and its applications for rural development, for agricultural development. We are benefited by some of this information, some of the resources that understanding among in these villages. Gandhi's philosophy of truth. Truth is okay, but if we convert the unknown truth to known truth by the technology, for example, the spatial image by the satellite image, that will benefit the rural mass. The conversion of the unknown truth to known truth, that conversion is possible by this technology, spatial technology. This is only one example. I am sure that the money benefit or the justice is not prevailed. Madam Secretary Chakraborty will tell us about the role of communications, how we could think of the modern day tools and technologies and communication linkage for rural development. Hereby, all these two speakers were evaluating. We welcome you, sir. Definitely, with these two speakers already spoken, our esteemed Chancellor as well as Vice Chancellor, and you two talks will help us, help our learners, help our Tezpur University community, in particular and in general, entire academic fraternity. I welcome all of you, sir, and I'm evaluating along with my colleagues. UBA team, we have 10 core faculty members supported the entire university community to do this UBA work. This particular event will also be benefited to the UBA. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for highlighting the theme of today's webinar and also the effort of Tezpur University in contributing to sustainable development. Now, with the permission of His Excellency Chancellor of Tezpur University and Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, may we begin with the technical sessions? We will now begin with the technical sessions. Before we begin, I would like to make an announcement to all the resource persons that the questions and comments will be taken at the end of the entire program. Our first speaker for today, Dr. Manzul Kumar Hazarika, is currently the director of the Geoinformatics Center, Asian Institute of Technology, Thailand. Over the past several years, Dr. Hazarika has been extensively working in applications of geospatial technologies in agriculture, disaster management, and environment using state-of-the-art technologies such as high-resolution imaging, big data, machine learning, etc. He worked in more than 20 countries in the Asia-Pacific as well as the Caribbean regions to support the government in planning and decision-making by integrating geospatial technologies with conventional data, methods, and tools. He, at present, actively involved in developing a cloud-based disaster risk assessment platform in open source environment in collaborations with ITC Netherlands. He is also currently working with the FAO in estimating damages caused to crops by disasters, especially floods. He has also published several research articles and applications of remote sensing and GIS in disaster management and related topics. Today, Sir will be sharing with us his expert opinion on sustainable technology and Gandhian perspective of rural development. Dr. Manzul Kumar Hazarika, sir.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank organizer, Professor Debendra Baruah, for inviting me for this very special seminar. I am really privileged to be a part of it. I would like to first the Chancellor of the Tezpur University, Professor Jagdish Mukhi, and also Governor of Assam, Professor VK Jain, Vice Chancellor of Tezpur University, my dear faculty colleagues, students, ladies and gentlemen. So I will be talking about my topic will be advances in geoinformatics for agriculture and rural development. Let me share my slides. Can you see my slides?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So let me put it in presentation mode. Sometimes Can you see now? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So, when I was requested to talk about this backdrop of this particular webinar, Mahatma Gandhi, so I thought that agriculture and rural development would be the best area where I should talk about, where we are using new technologies for development of the society, particularly in the rural society. So this my topic, contents of my presentation. I'll give an introduction. I'll go to how satellite data is using for crop monitoring and yield forecasting, and I will then go to the latest technology, drones for crop monitoring and yield forecasting. Then I'll also talk about a little bit of application of big data in agriculture. Then also application of geoinformatics for agroecological zoning and crop suitability mapping, and also geoinformatics for rural development. I'll give you a few examples. So first of all, there is an increasing role of data in smart farming, and you can see that there are a few important aspects, is like smart sensing and monitoring. Then you have smart analysis and planning, and also smart control of farm operations. So all these things put together in a cloud-based environment and data management, which can enable you to to manage your farm in a advanced manner, so that you get the good yield as well as you can manage your crops and asset efficiently. So, for whatever the case, data acquisition is the most important aspect of agricultural management, and to do that, we can have satellite, which is around 700 to 800 kilometers up there. We have aeroplane, few kilometers. Then you have drone, maybe within 500 meter or more. Or then also you have at the bottom ground survey. So far, we are getting data ground survey and satellite. This aeroplane also being used for some time, but it's quite expensive. But recent invent of drones, this data collection become very easy and also cost effective, because the quality of data you acquire from drone is very good, and if you get it either by aeroplane or for high resolution satellite, it is very, very expensive. So this is one of the new emerging area in data collection in coming days. So data acquisition platforms, I will give you the pros and cons quickly. Satellite is extensive cover, huge area, several, even hundreds of kilometers can be covered. It has a lot of spectral camera, means different kind of camera in one satellite. But problem is it's expensive and relatively low resolution. I mean, the commercially available satellite data would be around 30 centimeter per pixel, and data acquisition is you have to wait satellite count a particular place, so weekly, bi-weekly, in some cases maybe daily. Aircraft is also high resolution, large single flight, large area can be covered, but it's very expensive. So, and also susceptible to weather. If you have cloud or rain, you probably cannot, you are not advisable to fly the airplane. Drones, on the other hand, you can go up to 1 to 2 centimeter resolution, unaffected by cloud coverage, because it's fly below cloud, cost effective, and image on demand. Whenever you like, you just fly the drone by yourself. But problem is relatively small coverage. And one of the biggest problem, even in India today, is the regulation. Practically, I mean, theoretically, you cannot fly any drone in India as of today. But I guess, I think the government is bringing the new legislation which will be immediate, quickly operational. And surveying, of course, it is very high quality, high resolution, but problem is it's slow, tedious, and labor intensive, difficult to record top of the features like a building or tree, and also many of the inaccessible area surveying is very, very difficult. Now, I'll talk about crop monitoring and focusing in satellite data. As you know, the sunlight comes and it absorbed by the trees, and then it is reflected apart. The amount of energy absorbed by the trees, green leaves, which basically photosynthesis and produce the crop or fruit or whatever. Now, these, if you look at the green one, so amount of energy absorbed is very, very high, and only very small part of energy is released. So, and on the other hand, if it is non-green, then more energy is released. So this principle is used in remote sensing to define an index called Normalized Difference Vegetation Index, NDVI. So more NDVI means your tree is healthy condition, very green. More green, more NDVI. So this is the principle we use in remote sensing to see the crop health basically. So this is in Uttar Pradesh. We did a World project, I think 2013. And you can see these dark blue colors. These are the very high, healthy rice crops, very green crop. And then what we do is that we develop some yield model, 1, 2. This actual prediction was 198 and 200, 198,290 tons. Then predicted was is 177,547. So this is actual and predict. There is, of course, some differences there. But the advantage of this prediction is that you can predict before harvesting. But this actual one, it takes at least 6 to 8 months because agriculture department take the crop samples, they call crop cutting experience, entire state. They have to bring the data, statistical analyze. So it takes 6 to 8 months. So if you can predict just before or during the time of harvesting, the farmer can decide that if the government can tell farmer that if there's a, you can say whether it's overproduction or there's a deficiency in production. This can be done 6 months ahead. And at that point in time, when harvesting is occurring, happening, price in the market is less because there new products are coming. But if you know that there is a less in production in your state, maybe government can take advanced measure at that point of time to buy these crops in advance at a cheap rate. Or maybe they know that there are a lot of production, they can plan for the exporting their products. So this is one of the example, and we did in Uttar Pradesh. This is for also we can, because I said every 8 to 10 days you know the greenness, so you can also know which rice was grown early. The yellow one is in May, blue one in June, and July one is the last sowing of the rice. And also you can see the crop intensity, how many crops you normally one, the red one is 1 crop, single crop, blue is 2 crops, green is 2 crops, and blue is 3 crops, very small spots only, because they are predominantly there is no third crop in this state. My friend Professor Baruah helped me to get some data from Tezpur and Udalguri, and you can see that actual data, and we predicted before harvesting, pretty close actually, without going to field, just sitting in Bangkok, we did this one. So it is quite interesting. If we do some field work, it will be improved certainly. And we have some more plan to work with Tezpur, Professor Baruah at Tezpur on this in coming months. This is in Bangladesh, very close, we did. This is in Cambodia. So similar thing we did using drones. So you can see 3 types of drones. One is multi-rotor, upper right, then left one is fixed wing, and below right third is a hybrid. Because this first one, top one, right side, It is a multi-rotor. It can fly like a helicopter. It can stop in the air, no problem. But it is only fly for 20 minutes to 25 minutes only. The left one, aeroplane fixed wing, this is long range. It can go to even up to 100 kilometer. But problem is, it is you need some landing space and also payload is small payload. You cannot put a big payload there. So to take advantage of this time and long flying, we developed this third one in the down. It's called VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing. So all these 3 drones, what you are seeing, is built by us here in our center here in AIT, and we have been using now in various applications in Thailand, and we have planned to also do some in India and other countries. So this is the different camera use. This right one is, you see, red one. There are 5 cameras. So this is useful for knowing the greenness. Is called because of several cameras. So NDVI greenness we can get. So you can see using these drones, you can see that if there is a crop, if there is pest attack, where you can see some of these area or some problem, you can easily detect using this kind of data. This is also some invasive species of weeds and or other things in a cropland. You can very easily identify in this kind of data, very high resolution, high quality data. You can see the oil palm plantations. You can see, because oil palm is several meters high, you cannot know what is the quality or if the tree is, because you have to see from below. But if you fly from up, you can really see the condition of the crop. On the right hand side, you can also count the tree, how many trees you are there. And if some trees are problematic, you are not doing well, you can think of replacing using and you identify the exact location of the tree. So this is also plant counting. So you can see all the trees. You can see some gaps here and there, and those gaps you know where to gaps are there, and you need replanting. Or some trees are weak or some problem, then you can think of replacement. But this is a quite advantageous way, because farmers, as I said, they cannot see from the top, so it's very difficult for them to take this kind of decision. But drones make it very, very easy. Biomass estimation is one of the biggest problem, and I am working with Tezpur University now to estimate the biomass in various parts of Assam using satellite data to see how much energy, bioenergy we can get in Assam. So this technology will help very much, because you also know the height of the tree using this kind of data. So then you can better estimate this biomass. So this rice, what I have done in Uttar Pradesh, we also did some experiment in a plot here in Thailand using rice. These are the 16 experimental plots with different inputs, water and fertilizer. And as you say, from transplantation stage, greenness increases, and you monitor that one. So this is the rice field actually, and you can see some of the areas plots did not do well for some reasons, so we can identify easily. Then also we get the NDVI greenness. So these are the dark area, brown, high greenness. Then also we also look at the different stages of the planting, and we fly the drone according to capture those stages of rice. And then we plot the yield, and it is very similar to what we have seen in satellite data. So your yield and NDVI is very closely related. The right side is NDRI, but it's very close to NDVI. It's almost same thing. But since we have several cameras in our sensor, in our equipment, so we try to take 2 types of data, basically, but it's basically the same thing. So agroecological zonation. So this is very important because you see for example, Haryana, Punjab is doing a lot of rice cultivation, but actually it is not suitable for rice because you need so much water for rice, and they don't have that much of rainfall. So because of that, there is a groundwater depleting in Haryana, Punjab. This is causing a huge problem in future. So what kind of crop you need to suitable for your land is a crop ecological zonation developed by FAO. They started in 1978. Till now, they had a lot of development, but problem was it was not in public domain or open source. So FAO came to us and asked us to do it in GIS so that it can be used by anybody and also open source. And we did this one last year. And now we are implementing this one in Laos and Afghanistan. So basically, you see, you need to look at need a crop suitability. You need climate data, soil data, terrain means elevation data, and crop parameters. And you can look at the crop yield and crop suitability both. So basically, this is Laos. We did. You see, the whole country we developed into some grid or squares. That the square size you can define depending on your data availability. So you can look at this red dot, where from January 1, we know the climate data or weather data on January 1st from average data for long-term average, or soil information we have elevation information, we have all crop parameters for say you take 10 crops and you have the parameters of this all 10 crops with you, then on that particular day you start simulating these 10 crops. And then 365 days you try to, depending on your crop calendar, you put different crops and you simulate that. At the end of your crop growing season, you can calculate the crop biomass, crop yield, if there's an effect of water limitation, or there's an effect of soil, terrain, other things. All these things can be monitored. Now, out of 10, which will be performing best for that particular location? So you put that crop or that parts of 3-4 crops during the whole, there were 365 days. So you can find the best suitable crop data. So this is what we did in Laos. You can see the crop suitability map, estimated yield, land class suitability right hand side. You can multi-crop for in Laos. Which are the area you have? You can grow multi-crops because of water limitation and other climatic constraints. So we did some validation. This blue one is we also calculate evaporation using this model, this our model. So you see our blue one and this right two ones are some from the literature. It's very up to the second decimal or first decimal is accurate. So we are very, very confident that it is working very well, our model. Now we are going to implement, we start implementing in Afghanistan. But advantage is that it's all digital, so we can, once we get the data sitting here, without going to Afghanistan, we can still do this. So also we did the estimated yield, putting this, they call future farm, small and smart. So a farmer is sitting here, he's a highly technocrat guy. I mean, technically, not technocrat guy, he's a technically aware. He will fly drones, he will have tractors, all remotely controlled, he has all this cow, sensor is with the cow, he knows the location of the cow, what they are doing. Then also they have coined a new term called agribots, means agricultural robot. So these are because a few things that unless you mechanize or you make this agriculture good like this, people are not educated people or technocrats will go to this field. And for example, if you look at a lot of labor shortages in agriculture sector, like tea gardens, you can see, nobody wants to do agriculture because they hard work and not much money. But I think our youngsters, universities, Tezpur University or other universities should, maybe train to adopt this agriculture as their profession, and very high-end agriculture and high-quality products will be very rich. I quickly go through a little bit of rural development. This is actually Bhuban platform of ISRO. Today morning I look at that, and this data is available every location. You see in Nopam here, your university is located, and there is this green spot, and I click at the red, and one of the green it become red. It is a micro irrigation near your university. You can see this kind of micro irrigation is happening there. There is a fishery near your university. This is some fisheries happening, and it's reported under this is, I think, under the rural development scheme. This farmer might have got some money to do this. This is some again near the river towards the east of your university. You can see some flood control structure, and also some near your university again some land development is happening, all by the Ministry of Rural Development, Government of India, and is happening. So I think that is what I want to say. Thank you very much. I'll take questions later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us on advances in geoinformatics for agriculture and rural development, highlighting on the different data acquisition platforms. We are certain that your work in the field, sir, is and will continue to benefit us all. Thank you so much, sir. Our second speaker for today, Professor VK Vijay, National Coordinator, Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, and a professor at IIT Delhi. He is an acclaimed and internationally known professor in biogas and rural technologies. His concepts on linking higher educational institutes for village development and biogas purification and bottling technology were well adopted by Government of India and launched as programs by concerned ministry in the government. Professor Vijay and his team developed the concept and vision of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, Movement for Progressive India, which was adopted by MHRD Government of India in 2014. He got patent on biogas, small-scale biogas upgradation technology, which has been licensed to 7 industries and many gaushalas in field areas. Professor Vijay is actively engaged in research and worked for more than 40 sponsored research and consultancy projects from India and abroad. We would have not found a better resource person to share his opinion on Unnat Bharat Abhiyan for fulfilling Gandhi's dream of rural development. Professor VK Vijay, sir.
Thank you, Sam. First of all, I would like to congratulate Tezpur University for organizing such a important and useful webinar for Indian participant from Thailand, participant from South Africa, and from other global areas from where Indians are there, people are there, and who are thinking about Gandhian philosophy and thought for the holistic development and the human development. I am particularly thankful to the Chancellor and Governor of Assam, Professor Jagdish Mukherjee. He is a good friend of us. Also, the Vice Chancellor, Professor Vinod Jain, Tezpur University, Dr. Manzul Hazarika from IIT Bangkok, Professor Joya Chakraborty, Professor Debendra Baruah, and other faculty members of Tezpur University and other universities and colleges across the country. All the participants and participating institute of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan from all the states of this country, students and their friends. The topic today, that is sustainable technologies and rural development, the Gandhian perspective. If you remember, this year we are celebrating 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. And now we can understand after COVID-19 that his philosophy and thought is now more relevant for the whole country, for the whole world, that what we envisaged at that time in 1940s, 30s, and even after independence are so much relevant to the development of the global paradigm. He envisaged that in India, if mere independence is not sufficient, unless we really get into the independence of our villages, and in his seminal work of Hind Swaraj and Gram Swaraj, which the Honorable Chancellor were mentioning, the vision that unless our villages are developed, unless all the people living in rural areas or urban areas are employed and they get good quality livelihood, mere independence is not sufficient for this country. And in that spirit, he wanted that we should get Ram Rajya in this country. It is not related to religion or it is not related to any political issue. It means for Ram Rajya is that everybody should be happy, everybody should achieve the goal of his life, everybody should get good quality employment.
Sorry, sir, you're not audible.
Hello?
Yes, sir, you're audible now.
So since I'm not audible,
Yes, sir, you're audible now, sir.
have you listened to me earlier or not?
Uh,
Few seconds, we miss you.
Okay. So I would like to, because the topic of my today's speech is related Unnat Bharat Abhiyan and how we are envisaging Unnat Bharat Abhiyan as Gandhian perspective to achieve in the country with the higher education institute in the country, with the youth of this country and with the faculty members and teachers of the higher education institute. So I have a small presentation which I would like to share with all of you, and then in between I would like to discuss about is it visible?
not yet, sir.
Not yet. Just a- Is it visible now?
No, sir.
Sir,
You give me the yeah.
sir, you can click the present now option in
Okay.
the bottom right corner.
Yeah, I am making
Present.
that present now.
Yes, present now. Then choose
Yeah.
enter screen.
Enter screen. Okay.
Yes. Then select the screen and share. Then minimize the. It's not working actually, sir.
Is it coming now?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
it is coming.
Yeah. So you can just have a glance of the title of this, that this is a flexi program of Ministry of Education. Earlier, this ministry was known as Ministry of Human Resource Development. Now it is known as Ministry of Education. And the tagline of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan is that Shikshit Bharat, Saksham Bharat, Swasth Bharat, Swavalambi Bharat, Sampann Bharat, and now Atmanirbhar Bharat. So, how we can achieve the Gandhian dream of Gram Swaraj? Now, this is in the vision of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan also. And also the logo of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan you can just visualize. It is the Gandhi's picture looking towards the horizon and sun rays. It means that we have to go a long way of achieving the Gram Swaraj through Unnat Bharat Abhiyan in the country. So, the tagline which I just read it, Shikshit Bharat, Saksham Bharat, Swachh Bharat, Swavalambi Bharat, Sampann Bharat, and how we can fulfill Gandhi's dream of Gram Swaraj, which is now attached with Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. And this idea came to our mind for last 20-25 years in IIT Delhi. Many faculty members from our Center for Rural Development Technology, and other departments, mechanical, electrical, civil, computer, deliberated long that how our education system in the country can be linked to our society, can be linked to our villages. Still, nearly 68% of population reside in villages. How many villages we are having? You may know that the number of villages in India is more than 6 lakhs. How many districts? We are having only 715 districts. How many cities? If you see the big cities, it is only 10 metros, you can say, 100 cities, you can say. Even you count the cities, towns, district headquarters, sub-district headquarters, or talukas, it all numbers are nearly 4,000. So 4,000 towns and cities in the country, whereas number of villages are 6 lakhs, more than 6 lakhs. It means still the spirit of India lies in villages, and unless our villages are developed, unless our villages are empowered, unless our villages are becoming self-reliant, we cannot think of becoming a developed nation, lead the whole world. And we were there during even 15th, 16th, 17th century. India was known as a Sone ki Chidiya. And that's why the Britishers, the Francis, the Portuguese, the Dutch people, they came to India to do business with India, to earn money, to understand our economics. And at that time, till 17th century, India's share in the global economy was more than one third. India's share in the global economy was more than a third. And today, if we see, India's share in the global economy is nearly 1%. So where we were and today where we are. So why it happened and why were we at the top? सोने की चिड़िया क्यों थे? Because our production system, our development system was based on decentralized system in villages. And that's why Gandhiji understood the whole concept, whole thing and the society. And he promoted that unless our villages becomes the self-reliant, we cannot achieve the real independence which India should. So looking to this, Gandhiji is foreseen as He has written in his seminal book Hind Swaraj, the Western development paradigm. And after independence, instead of following the Gandhian principles, we followed the Western principles of development and Western development paradigm of US and Europe. And due to that, we are nothing, we haven't reached anywhere, and all our villages are now lagging behind. Our cities are polluted, and their resources are becoming very scarce in urban areas. Everywhere you can see the lines in hospital, in entertainment places, in other markets. So neither our cities nor our villages have developed in a way which it should have developed. Therefore, based on centralized technologies and urbanization, has given rise to serious problems like increasing inequity, leading to crime and violence, and climate change due to rapid ecological degradation. This was envisaged by Mahatma Gandhi at that time in the Hind Swaraj. And not only that, there are huge development disconnects between the rural and urban sectors, such as inequity in health, education, incomes, and basic amenities, as well as employment opportunities, all causing great discontent and large scale migration to urban areas. Thanks to COVID 19, that after COVID 19, people really understood that living in cities are not so easy with coronavirus around, and therefore millions of people, more than 11 million people from urban areas, man the big cities, Bombay, Delhi, Hyderabad, Madras, Bangalore, they return to their native place, their villages, on foot, on cycle, on bullock cart, or on thela, or whatever vehicle, whatever way they got. They wanted to move back to their native villages. And many of these people will not come back to urban areas now because they had seen that they don't know what may happen after 1 year or 2 years, and what may happen to their industries where they were working, what may happen to the work which they were employing. So it is better if they are able to get a quality livelihood in the village itself, and also at the same time, if someone is earning 100 rupees in a city and someone earning only 50 rupees in a village, their status is equal. They are able to maintain their livelihood at the same level, 100 rupees equivalent to 50 rupees in villages. So, if our Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, our students, our teachers, our system can create good quality livelihood of these people in rural areas, they will not migrate from rural areas to urban areas. I envisage in India that by 2030, the reverse migration will start in the country because of the climate change, employment and congestion and so many things in cities. But this happened only in 2020 only due to the COVID situation. And now all over the globe, all global development paradigms are changing. So Unnat Bharat Abhiyan is inspired by the vision of transformational change in rural development processes by leveraging knowledge institutions to help build the architecture of an inclusive India. That is the beauty of this program, that we are thinking of an inclusive India, whether it's rural or urban, poor or rich. Hence, being the bridge for rural-urban linkages and socio-economic development. Hence, Unnat Bharat Abhiyan is working for fulfilling Gandhi's dream of rural development. So, Gandhiji was of opinion that India should achieve Gram Swaraj, which is equally important to independence, and he pursued for it and given his vision of Gram Swaraj, that how self-reliant villages usually look using locally available resources. Because in villages, all kind of resources are there. Primary productions are there, which are not there in urban areas. So if you go for primary production resources, it is only available in rural areas. It is not available in cities. But they are cities, urban people are exploiting rural areas. So all the resources we are transporting it from rural areas to urban areas. All the primary produce we are transporting from rural areas to urban areas, and in turn, the benefit is not going to the people who are really producing it, but benefit is going to the middlemen and marketing people and those who are selling it. So this situation should change now. As a matter of fact, Gandhiji was not against mechanization as such. He strongly objected to the craze of machinery. Generally, people say that he was against the machinery or mechanization, but it is not true. He welcomed every improvement in small machines which could provide employment to millions of artisans in villages. In place of mass production by big factories, he advocated production by masses in their own homes and cottages. That is the crux of now today's development, which should happen after COVID-19, and which is now promoted by our Pradhan Mantri ji, that we should become vocal for local. It should be the local economy, local production system, local processing system. And then only we can become Atmanirbhar Bharat at every level, whether it's a village level or town level or city level or state level or national level. And the concept of Mahatma Gandhi for production by masses, not the mass production. In the mass production system, what is happening presently is that all kind of raw materials are transported from across the globe to China. And China has become the mass production system for all the major industries in the world. They are producing the finished product from all the raw materials, and then it is again migrated, transported from China to every mall of the world, whether it is USA, Europe, Japan, Thailand, India, anywhere. This situation should change now. And this mass production should become the production by masses. And then only we can realize the Gram Swaraj. So Gandhiji was most anxious to provide full employment to every able-bodied citizen of India. Recently, IIT Delhi has organized Diamond Jubilee celebration of IIT Delhi, and we invited the Honorable Vice President of India. And in his inaugural address, the Vice President of India, Shri Venkaiah Naidu ji categorically said that we are having dividend of the youth in the nation. More than 60% population is below 35 years. And this country is young. We can do work. Other countries like USA, Japan, China, Europe, they are the old countries. Their majority of the population is above 50. So the working hands with these countries are very less, whereas working hands in our country is too much. We should be able to provide employment to every willing working person. That was the theme Gandhiji propagated at that time. Gandhiji was most anxious to provide full employment to every able-bodied citizen of India. And what is happening is that more than 10 crore educated youth are without job, without employment. And that is creating frustration. That is creating frustration among youngsters in the country. And the situation should be changed. And he maintained that this objective could be achieved only by organizing village and cottage industries in the countryside in an efficient manner. Any economic planning which they don't utilize fully, the ideal manpower in the rural areas could not be termed as sound or rational. जो his thought was that every villager should get quality employment opportunity, quality income from their work, and he propagated for that. Therefore, areas, all kind of facility should also be provided to rural areas, whether it's a road connectivity or basic amenities like health, education, connectivity, internet connectivity, employment opportunity, and he acted upon it. How he acted upon it? That he was equally concerned about developing our villages, developing our Gram Suraj, and therefore he was not only concerned with that we have to achieve independence, but he was equally concerned that with independence we should also be able to get villages self-planned system, self-planned economy. And for that target, he formed All India Village Industry Association in 1994-44 to develop technologies relevant to villages, village industries, and artisans for their empowerment, and kept top scientists of that time, top industrialists to in the governing body of this IVA. C.V. Raman, Jesse Bose, P.C. Ray, Ghanshyam Das Birla are the few who were there in the governing body. He formed IVA. That India should develop technology which is relevant to 80% of the population at that time, not for large industry or for urban people, but really relevant to rural artisans, rural production system, production by margin. So those kind of technology should be developed. He also set up and stayed in Sevagram, Vardha, for and showing self-reliant system demonstration where he lived for many years before independence. And to my surprise, when I was just going through his reading, he announced a rupees 1 lakh award at that time in 1945 to improve upon the Ambar Charkha, develop a new design of an efficient Ambar Charkha which could be utilized by all the people in the country. So at that time there were nearly 32 crore population of India, and he wanted that everybody should do some work, should spin charkha, or whatever way one can work, one should work. So if I count 1 lakh rupees at that time, it may be now crores of rupees. So even nobody is announcing of that kind of announcement or challenge for developing technologies related to rural areas, developing technology related to artisans, developing technology related to common person. And he he took its cognizance and announced 1 lakh award of developing Ambar Charkha at that time. He suggested scientists to do research on rural industries and technologies, nutrition and health benefit of jaggery, because Britishers were destroying jaggery production system in every village and promoting sugar mills. So he insisted that scientists should work that what are the benefits of jaggery for health, for nutritional benefits. And at that time, he asked this Jesse Bose, can you find, PC Ray, can you find the benefit of jaggery? So he said that there is no such research papers available in any journal in the world which highlights the benefits of jaggery. And comparison with jaggery and the utilization of sugar. So he persisted that now it is for Indian scientists to do research on this and publish good quality papers. So you can understand the thought, the direction which he gave to the science at that time and technology at that time. So he gave a direction of Swadeshi science. That don't think what scientists in UK or Europe and America are doing. They will not benefit our society. They will not benefit with their work to Indians, to the villagers of this country. Therefore, our direction should be the subject science, Indian science, which is relevant to rural areas, which is relevant to artisans. And that is what the Prime Minister is propagating now. And that mantra was Atmanirbhar Bharat. And we at Unnat Bharat Abhiyan is also aiming how we can achieve Atmanirbhar Bharat, how we can progress towards Atmanirbhar Bharat in coming years. So with this background, how Unnat Bharat Abhiyan is progressing, I would just like to brief you that the background of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, that why we need this kind of system, that every higher educational institute in the country should adopt a cluster of 5 villages around them and work for their development. Then they will utilize their students, they will utilize their faculty members. So in the process, our faculty members and students will learn many things when they will go to the villages, sit in Gram Sabhas, understand the real life challenges, understand the traditional technologies, traditional wisdom, traditional learning from people, which is not there in books, which is not there in the present curriculum. So this is a paradigm shift in our academic programs and research programs of this country. I can quote one example. In IIT Delhi, we represent a center for rural development and technology. And in my center, more than 124 students are doing PhD in the Center for Rural Development Technology. We are the multidisciplinary research, and our faculty members are doing research relevant to rural technologies, rural science. When our students are doing research, generally the trend was that they generally review various international journals, see what is the research gap in these journals, and then take up, understand some problem statement, and they work upon there, and then work for 3-4 years, get PhD degree, publish some papers, and that's all. So the whole paradigm in last 4-5 years after Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, we have changed the perception of these students, working of these students. We make it mandatory that you have to go to villages, stay there for at least months, understand their problem, pick up some problem which is faced by people in the villages. You should take up those issues and work for your PhD, work for 3-4 years for giving solutions of these technological issues, development issues, which you find in rural areas, and that will give you satisfaction, that will give you good quality publication, and that is relevant. So now, all over the world, all the top universities in the world, whether it's a MIT or Oxford or Cambridge or Harvard, whatever it is, they are working that how our education system is linked to rural areas. Our academic programs, our development, our systems, how are linked to the society. So everybody is looking towards societal work. And that's why Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, we are propagating that all the universities, colleges should adopt a cluster of 5 villages around them and work for their development in collaboration with the district administration. So the objective of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan are to engage the faculty and students of higher education institute in understanding rural realities, to identify and select existing innovative technologies, enable customization of technologies, or devise implementation method for innovative solutions as per the local needs. So these solutions may be of management solution, social solution, economic solution, whatever they feel they can implement innovative solutions. And to leverage the knowledge base of the institutions to devise processes for effective implementation of various government programs, Government of India or state governments implementing for rural development. So this is the objective of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, So in 2014, we started as a one national coordinating, one NCI, National Coordinating Institute of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, because the concept was given by IIT Delhi, and MHRD found that because this is program of IIT Delhi, so we will only facilitate, support financially, and you have to coordinate this program in the whole country. So we are coordinating on behalf of MHRD. There are 13 subject expert groups, and every subject expert group is coordinated by a different institution in the country. There are 45 regional coordinating institutes, and regional coordinating institutes are located in minimum one in every state, and in larger states there are two, three, up to four regional coordinating institutes are there who are coordinating with National Coordinating Institute and providing mentoring and guiding the participating institute of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. If I give an example for Uttar Pradesh has three regional coordinating institutes. For Western UP, it is IIT Kanpur. For Eastern UP, it is BHU IIT. And for Central UP, it is Dayalbagh Educational Institute, Agra. So these three regions coordinating with the help of our NCI IIT Delhi, they are supporting, advising, and monitoring participating institutes for the implementation of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. So presently there are 2,614 participating institutes, and they have adopted nearly 14,000 villages across the country. You can see the right side the map of India, where regional coordinating institute and participating institutes are marked, and you can see the whole country is now covered. And recently, the Honorable Minister has called us and discussed that where we have reached. So we said that we are working in 14,000 villages. So he said that, do you know how many villages are there in the country? We said there are 6 lakh villages, more than 6 lakh villages. He said how many gram panchayat? There are 2,50,000 gram panchayats, more than that. You know how many total colleges, universities are there? So he himself said that there are more than 45,000 colleges and universities, 1,000 universities and 45,000 colleges. Out of that, 35,000 colleges comes under UGC, nearly 10,000 colleges comes under AICT, professional colleges. So all the Gram Panchayat, 2.5 lakh Gram Panchayat, should be connected to some higher educational institute in next 5 years. So that is the challenge, that is the mandate of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, that in coming 5 years, every village in the country should be connected to some higher educational institute for their development work. And district administration, district collectors and the implementing agency should also collaborate with the participating institute, and our students, our faculty members should help in implementing, developing these villages. So you can just see a diagram. There are 56% technical institutes in the country are participating institutes, 44% non-technical or UGC institutes are under Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. And you see there are agriculture institutes. You can see 34 agriculture institutes, 21 IITs, ICERs, IIMs, National Institute of Technical Teachers Training Institutes, NITs, National Institute of Technologies, AIMS. So all these higher educational institutes are part of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. And we are working in nearly 432 districts of the country, and with all 58 aspirational districts. And we are also making technological interventions at the field level. And during COVID period, many of our institutes, more than 600 institutes, have worked in their adopted villages for awareness, for promotion, for supplying masks, sanitizers, and making people aware, and also help in agricultural weather forecasting. And because all the participating institutes and regional coordinating institutes are having WhatsApp group of their villages, so they are supporting these villagers in various ways, and Unnat Bharat Abhiyan is contributing in these villages very much. So these are the subject expert groups, and which institute is coordinating these? So rural energy system is coordinated by IIT Delhi, rural crafts and artisans IIT Kanpur, sanitation and solid waste management IIT Madras, liquid waste management IIT Delhi, rural infrastructure NIT Delhi, ethos in technical institutions IIT Mumbai, water resource management IIT Kharagpur, sustainable agricultural system Indian Agricultural Research Institute, New Delhi, capacity building, National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj, Hyderabad, skill development, AICT, curriculum reforms, UGC, improvement in school education, IIT Delhi, others health and others school or sports, COVID-19 related, IIT Delhi. So these are the subject expert groups, and in every expert group, we are having a group of experts which reviews your proposal for technical interventions, customization, and on their recommendations of different SEG coordinators, NCI provide the financial support for the technical interventions project. We provide up to 1 lakh rupee support to these, and these our subject expert groups are connected with the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. So there are 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and these Sustainable Development Goals are how these are connected to our subject expert groups. So we have drawn a connection with all these Sustainable Development Goals that our subject expert groups are connected to this, and Government of India is fulfilling the mandate of Sustainable Development Goals through Unnat Bharat Abhiyan subject expert groups. So if we see now, this is stage 2, Unnat Bharat Abhiyan 2, and very soon we are going to launch the Unnat Bharat Abhiyan 3, where all the villages in the country will be connected to our higher education institute in next 5 years. And till Unnat Bharat Abhiyan 1, till 2016, 14 to 16, IIT Delhi was approaching across the country requesting to adopt Unnat Bharat Abhiyan to different universities and colleges and institutions, and we were signing MOU with those institutions for Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. But that mode was changed in 2016, and now invitation mode was converted into selection through challenge mode. Anybody can apply online on our web portal anytime, 24/7. It is open, and every month we are having a review meeting with the MHRD secretary, and there what whosoever is applying in that month, that is discussed, and then that list is approved. That okay, from this month onwards, these institutions are registered with Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, and then we provide support 10,000 rupees per village per institute. So a cluster of 5 villages are supported for one institute. So 50,000 rupees per institute we are providing as an initial grant to the institute once they are selected and registered with Unnat Bharat Abhiyan through our Unnat Bharat Abhiyan portal. And then if they also write a proposal, this is one page proposal we require on technical interventions in villages through subject expert groups. So online they can submit it, then subject expert coordinator review it, and then if they recommend, we just provide 1 lakh rupees per technical interventions, and we do not reject any proposal. We just tell our subject expert groups and the coordinators to, if it is not found suitable or able to recommend it, so we provide them that how you can improve your proposal, what kind of things you should mention. So our subject expert group coordinators provide them mentorship, provide them assistance, provide them support for improving their project proposal, so they are able to access this grant. So 1 lakh grant for technical interventions and 50,000 grant for already some technologies there and they are not functioning well. So their technology customization, we are having 50,000 rupees support. In addition to that, we provide to all regional coordinating institute a 10 lakh grant for the coordination of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan activity in their region. Then MHRD through AICT and UGC had issued a letter that higher education institute can use their own resources, corpus fund, alumni fund, or whatever fund they are having with them can be utilized for Unnat Bharat Abhiyan activities. There is no need for any permission from higher authorities or state government or central government or UGC or AICT, but they can make use of their fund for Unnat Bharat Abhiyan activity, and for that they do not need any permission, any approval from authorities. Or CSAR or CSR fund, alumni fund, or state central government funds for Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. So any student studying in any institute can part of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. They can contact coordinator, or if it is already not the part of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, even they can contact other institution which is part of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, and they can contribute in these villages through various internship program or other programs of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. Already UGC has started a 2-credit compulsory course for all undergraduate programs, which is community engagement and social responsibility, in which students have to go to villages, understand their issues, learn, intervene something, and make some practical thing in the villages through interventions. Then AICT is made it mandatory that there should be 100 hours rural internship program for all BTech, and so I am just concluding. We have started Tezpur Seva program, in which our participating institute will be finding problem statement, and Unnat Bharat Abhiyan institutes will provide to their technical support of those problems. So it is already there in NIRF. Unnat Bharat Abhiyan has been included in NIRF ranking, NAC accreditation, and teachers, faculty members. This is also included in their approval, appraisal, promotions. Like you are attending any conference, seminar, or making presentations for papers, the work of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan is now included in your promotions also, for your appraisal also. And at the end, I would like to say that whole global paradigm across the globe is changing after Corona. People are migrating back to rural areas. Now this is time that all our institutes, our youth in the country can contribute for the rural livelihood program to make our country Atmanirbhar Bharat. So in next 5 years, you will be seeing that all villages in the country will be connected to some higher education institute for their development. So Vivekananda said, education isn't only collection of information, but something more meaningful. Education should be man-making, life-giving, and character building. So with this vision, I would like to thank all of you for patiently listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for a very enlightening and thought-provoking talk. As stated by you, the spirit of India lies in villages. Unless our villages develop and become self-reliant, India will not develop. Yours and your team's vision for transformational change in rural development in the form of UBA will certainly contribute to that end. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Our third and last keynote speaker, Professor Joya Chakraborty ma'am, is a professor and head of the Department of Mass Communication and Journalism Department at Tezpur University. Her areas of interest are ICT for development, information and knowledge societies, sociology of communication technology and media, gender and ICT, communication for social change, children and media participation, etc. She has several research experience, projects, and publications in reputed journals. Today, she will be sharing with us her expert opinion on appropriate technology and Gandhian philosophy for economic development. Professor Joya Chakraborty, ma'am. Ma'am, can you please unmute yourself? Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Angel. Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Yes. His Excellency, the Governor of Assam, our Vice Chancellor, Professor VK Jain, respected panelists, Professor Manzul Hazarika and Professor VK Vijay. Thanks, and our Vice Chancellor, Professor VK Jain, Professor Debendra, Baruah, and all other people who are attending this discussion today. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on a humane connection to communication technologies. As I am from the Department of Mass Communication and Journalism, I'm trying to talk about communication technologies, trying to drive home the point that communication technologies play a very significant role for sustainable development, for furthering the goals of development, and how disparities in the distribution of this technology hampers the idea of humane development, which was central to the idea of development perceived by Mahatma Gandhi. So I'm connecting Mahatma Gandhi's ideologies on development to how communication technologies probably should be shaped today to address and fit to his ideologies of development. I'll go forward with a small presentation. Is my presentation visible?
Yes, ma'am.
So I say communication technology for humane development. I'm here to talk about Gandhian philosophy in connection with evolution of communication technology and humane development. As I try to establish this connection, I also contend that it is essential not to lose sight of this connection if we are to ensure the establishment of Gandhi's version of Ram Rajya. And as the previous speakers have already highlighted, that the Ram Rajya has nothing to do with religion. It is nothing but a society based on truth and non-violence. It is a perfect democracy, free of all sorts of inequalities based on possession or non-possession of assets, color, creed, race, or sex. Here the villages are prosperous and self-contained, and the state belongs to people who enjoy freedom of speech and press. This is how Gandhiji explained his definition of Ram Rajya in an article dated 1st June 1947 in the Harijan. I'll come back to discussing Gandhi's version of development in detail later. Now, if this was Gandhi's vision for an ideal nation, then how far or how close are we in achieving it today? To understand this, we have to juxtapose his notion of development with that of the International Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. That again has been discussed in detail, and we understand that the Sustainable Development Goals were adopted to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. The goals recognize that ending poverty and other deprivations must go hand in hand with strategies that improve health and education, reduce inequality, and spur economic growth. All while tackling climate change and working to preserve our oceans and forests. Closely connected connected to this idea of SDG is the Human Development Index. And again, I will not talk about it in detail. We understand that the Human Development Index, for the first time, created a shift from the focus on economic development to human-centered development, where it emphasized that people are the real wealth of a nation. There are close connections interconnections between SDGs and the Human Development Index. So where many of the SDGs, we can understand the achievement of the SDGs by looking into the HDI. So again, I'll not go into in detail because these points have been discussed by many of the previous scholars. But I'm discussing this to drive home the point that for development to be humane, it has to focus on human well-being, equality, and environmental protection, which are now at the center of all discourses on development. So both the national as well as international agenda talk about a human-centered approach to development. In order to measure this, we have also had the SDG India Index, where we have looked at the Niti Aayog had evaluated the level of achievement of India with regard to the sustainable development goals as far as the different states of India are concerned. And there are multiple categories in which the different states of India were divided in order to measure that how much we have achieved. So there were different categories which were there, like achiever, front runner, performer, and aspirant. And we see that the overall rank of India was somewhere around 57. And there were certain good performing states and certain states which were not performing very well as far as the SDG India Index is there. So there is disparities in terms of achievement. I believe I'm just trying to highlight this point that development indices, there are disparities in India with regard to the development indices and the achievement of those development indices. Now, where does communication fit into this scheme, and what has advances in communication technology got to do with this? Success in achieving the global agenda for democratic governance and human development is dependent largely to the extent to which national planning processes are informed by all sections of society, rich and poor, urban and rural, working or unemployed, literate or non-literate alike. Everybody has to inform the national policy. So, access to clear, reliable, and appropriate information is necessary for citizens to make informed decisions and to influence policy processes that affect their lives. That is the significance of communication. So communication for development processes can therefore be seen as essential for effective participation and central to enhancing human development. It is through effective communication that governments are able to convince the citizenry about the appropriateness of its policies for social change and ensure their inclusion through meaningful participation. Again, it is communication that enables societies and communities to realize their social and cultural capital for meaningful engagement within the knowledge society. So we understand that there are internal resources which are coined in terms of the social and cultural capital of a particular society or a particular community. And it's very important that people realize the value of that, and there is a connection between these local perspectives, the local capital, the local assets, and the national policy. We have constantly been discussing about how development and exclusion from this digital network has come to define the potential or lack thereof to leapfrog into modern era for governments and citizens. So it's very important that we understand that who has access to these digital technologies, because that is going to determine an individual's capacity to realize the potential of full social development or social change. However, not all sections of society are able to take advantage of these opportunities. While the expansion of ICTs open up many opportunities for public participation, they can also serve to widen the gap between those with access and the skills to use new technologies and those without. So, we are staring at a situation where there are existing inequalities within the society, and we have ICTs which provide us with an opportunity to achieve the development goals further. Now, these existing disparities in the society, when they affect the disparity in access to ICTs, they kind of multiply the inabilities that people have, the disadvantages that people have. The disadvantages get multiplied because of the inability to access and use ICTs in an effective manner. However, the situation gets more complicated when it is realized that digital technologies or the digital divide is not just an access inequality. It is not just about who has access to a computer on an internet connection, but it is rather a multi-dimensional phenomenon with multiple gaps rolled into one, like gender divide, language divide, content divide, and many more. Investigations revealed that previous social inequalities influence the rise and persistence of digital inequalities. This led to the development of the concept of digital capital. Digital capital is a new idea in addition to the concepts of social, political, cultural, personal, and economic capital. It insists on an interplay between digital capital and the other forms of capital to enable individuals to transform the digital resources into social resources and to exploit the full advantages offered by the internet. Digital capital is the accumulation of internalized ability and aptitude or digital competencies and externalized resources like digital technology. To clarify, this means that digital capital creates a bridge between the online and offline mode of opportunities for individuals. It allows individuals to build online competencies based on their other capitals, social, cultural, political, etc. These online competencies then in turn again translate into offline, externally observable social resources. So if I have to explain it, then we have certain cultural capital. If I take the case of Assam, like the textile of Assam, the tea of Assam, so there are certain values or capital which is associated to all of these. And when I am able to connect this onto a digital opportunity and then derive offline opportunities, that means it translates into economic gain, recognition, and other assets for me in the offline mode. That is how I'm going to leverage the advantage of the digital capital. This interplay between the other capitals which are there in an individual and the digital resources and the technology, that is the idea of digital capital.
Ma'am, excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but we are running short of time. So sorry.
Yes, I understand that. I'll take another 5 minutes just to establish the connection.
All right, ma'am. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll quickly say that if this is the potential, now let us look at the inequalities which are there in terms of the access and usage of internet resources and digital technologies in India. I will not go through the statistics, they are there. And I believe many of us have been discussing and knowing about it based on attaining self-consciousness. Gandhi's concrete understanding of mass consciousness was entirely related to his objective of social change, because without any attempt to attain mass empowerment would be impossible. Mass consciousness, according to him, was tantamount to soul force or truth force. He was a firm believer in the capacity of man to struggle and survive all hardships. Now, we have been hearing about this, that yes, Gandhi was against Western machinery-based industrialization. He was not against mechanization per se, but he was more against the penetration of capitalism, the values of capitalism which came along with the idea of mechanization and industrialization. He critiqued the self-righteous nature of the westernized model of modern civilization, as according to him, it lacked the capacity for self-introspection and was morally vacuous. Gandhi was skeptical to technological growth. His emphasis on revival of the khaddar and the spinning wheel is a specific case in point. By placing khaddar as the uniform of the Indian patriot and by promoting spinning the charkha, Gandhi not only created a very powerful symbolism for nationalistic emancipation, but also emphasized the importance of the Indian craftsman. He wanted it to lead the way to other village industries and home crafts and retract all machinery, which according to him were merely violence in motion. Gandhi's constructive program was threefold: economic in khaddar, social in the removal of untouchability, and moral in the abolition of drinking or alcoholism. So he was also a person who talked about the integrative idea of development, where development had to be in consonance with the environment, with the culture. He was integrative of the idea of the village. He was a firm believer also in the supremacy of the mother tongue. As a mass communicator, he understood people's intimate attachment to their own language. He said that the national language of India must develop into a rich and powerful instrument capable of expressing the whole gamut of human thought and feelings. He himself, on many occasions, had appropriated various English or other regional language words to suit the understanding of his audience. Thus, in equating Gandhi's vision of social change with that of the current discourses of development, we find how he was far ahead of his times in articulating the importance of human agency and participation as central to the process of national progress. He strongly believed in realizing the social, cultural, personal, and economic capital of the people of India living in its villages as the most powerful agency to propel the process of national development. Gandhi was strongly against all inequality. He recognized poverty as a threat to peace. Hence, if we are to uphold his ideal of non-violence, then poverty must be eradicated in all its forms in health, education, technological access, and the like. So, today when we deliberate on eradication of poverty, empowerment, and peace, Gandhian philosophy still remains relevant and can provide us with the blueprint and pathway to attain these goals. This will require us to make all our institutions and policies inclusive and devoid of perpetuating the discrimination in any form. Communication technologies as an agency of social change must become communitarian by embracing processes of community informatics, whereby technologies become more socially responsive and get designed within the cultural, economic, and social context of the intended user community. Gandhi was metaphorical in many of his deliberations. He expected his writings and messages to be understood in its context. He provided powerful symbolic messages through his life and living. As he popularly said, "My life is my message." Even today, we have not been able to comprehend the entirety of his philosophical musings, but still Gandhi has evolved to provide powerful symbolism, which has been decrypted into various development programs of our country, like the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and we have recently right now been hearing about Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. So here's hoping that rather than the disbelief that such a person ever walked upon this earth, let Gandhi inspire generations to come and make generations strive and achieve the morals and the values and the philosophies that Gandhi stood for throughout his life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We are very sorry for having to cut short such an interesting session. Thank you so much for highlighting on the communication technology and Gandhian philosophy for humane development. We are certain that the participants have benefited from your enlightening talk. I will now hand over the platform to Professor Debendra Baruah, sir, to moderate the question, answer, and discussion session. Sir?
Yeah, thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Yeah. One question here from Eda Kenta. The question is that the relationship between MSME and Gram Swaraj. I request one of the research persons, probably VK Vijay sir, what is how the MSME thinks, and then Gram Swaraj could be taken care. Very swiftly, maybe very quickly.
Yeah. So, micro, medium, and small industries are also part of the cottage and all household industries. And also the Khadi and Village Industries Commission propagated by Mahatma Gandhi, and then in the whole country it is going on, is also part of MSME. So Gram Swaraj was that how we can have industries which is relevant to artisans, which is relevant to the primary production system, processing of all those materials, and finally product can be utilized at the local level. So production system and utilization level mainly remains local, and it improves the local economy. That is the theme of Gram Swaraj, and our mainly the micro small enterprises are also part of that category.
Thank you very much. Another observation from Ritu Devi from Manipur. The observation is that Unnat Bharat Abhiyan is a good concept, but we should also see its effectiveness, performance in hilly and remote areas. I hope our national coordinator will look into it, and where there is a problem of connectivity and other issues. Particularly, I think Ms. Abhi is referring the northeastern region. I think in future endeavor, in policy, this will be taken care.
So we are now having more focus towards the northeast and aspirational districts in Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. So it will be now focused approach for northeast and aspirational districts.
Thank you. Just another query for Dr. Manzul Hazarika regarding this planning of using this GIS and other technology. Do you see the prospect of micro-level planning integrating with this our Unnat Bharat Vision? Whatever the information is not known, because we have a provision and protocol to collecting the data through household survey, detailed extensive data. Then some of the planning you said that we could do it before the execution or before the completion of the crop. So this your technology or things, can it be useful or integrated to this our UBA program? Very quickly you can respond, please.
Yeah, we would like to utilize all those facilities and technology which are available to us for improving the mechanism of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan. We would love to do that.
Thank you. Hazarika, please very quickly respond.
Yeah. So I think you are asking about how this modern technology can be integrated with the field or data. Is that your question? Yeah. So I think yes, it is very much possible because this technology has gone to a very, to a level where your field people can be connected directly to this kind of technology using 4G or 5G. So nowadays, any platform you talk about, you can have a mobile application. You go to the field. You don't have to carry out a questionnaire. Traditionally, we go for survey and data collection. In the mobile phone, you have the all field. You fill it up, and then you take a photograph of the area. You push your bottom. Immediately, that photograph and location, everything will come into the map where it should be, and you can take in certain interval, and you can see the progress of the things also. I think this is becoming very, very easy, and I think the new project Tezpur University has got regarding this kind of resource collection will be implementing this kind of mobile application to connect to the ground. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe in the context, Madam Joya Chakraborty's concept or is saying it also be integrated. At least to these 5 villages I mentioned, where we have around 13,000 population and remote areas are also they are inaccessible, the isolated deep. I think we could take care. Thank you very much. There are other queries and that will be taken care individually due to short of time. I request all the participants to take their feedback form. There is an open-ended questions, queries could be put up there. We will arrange to connect our research persons and to give your answers or replies to you directly. And then there is a link or feedback form. Once you that will be available for 24 hours. Within the 24 hours, you use the feedback form link. All the all 18 participants, agents, certificate will be generated, and then your specific queries, if any, will take care to answer. So as we have already we have collected your email. Thank you very much. This moderation session is over. I hand over this mic to Dr. Angel, please.
Thank you so much, Professor Baruah, all the resource persons, and thank you, Mr. Abhijit, for sharing the questions in the chat box. May I now request Dr. Virendra, sir, Registrar, Tezpur University, for delivering the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Chair. His Excellency, the Honorable Governor of Assam and the Chancellor of Tezpur University, Professor Jagdish Mukhi, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Tezpur University, and other dignitaries online on the international webinar, the esteemed participants and the members of the organizing committee. It's my pleasure to propose vote of thanks on behalf of Tezpur University and on my own behalf. Tezpur University is very much grateful to His Excellency, the Honorable Governor of Assam and the Chancellor of Tezpur University, Professor Jagdish Mukhi, for inaugurating the webinar, accepting our invitation to be the chief guest, sparing his valuable time out of his busy schedule. Sir, your encouraging and in-depth inaugural speech has made the objects of this webinar more meaningful. Tezpur University is always blessed by your guidance and hope that the university will march further under your chancellorship. We are thankful to Professor VK Jain, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Tezpur University, that he spared his valuable time to deliver the welcome address to all the dignitaries and the esteemed participants with a brief note on the subject of the webinar. It was his idea that a webinar on this area can be considered befitting the celebration of 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. We are very grateful to Professor VK Vijay, a professor of IIT Delhi and the national coordinator of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, who agreed to be a keynote speaker with a short notice and to deliver on Unnat Bharat Abhiyan for fulfilling Gandhi's dream of rural development. We hope your role will make Unnat Bharat Abhiyan a success in the country to its mandate. We also offer vote of thanks to Professor Manzul Kumar Hazarika, the Director GIC at Asian Institute of Technology, Bangkok, for being agreed to act as a keynote speaker who deliberated on sustainable technology and Gandhian perspective of rural development. We hope academic collaboration between Tezpur University and Asian Institute of Technology will go a long way for mutual academic benefits with your cooperation. We are also thankful to Professor Joya Chakraborty, Professor and Head Department of Mass Comm and Journalism of this university, for deliberating on communication technology and Gandhian philosophy for human development as one of the keynote speakers. We are grateful to GIC, Asian Institute of Technology, Bangkok, and National Unnat Bharat Abhiyan for collaborating with Tezpur University for organizing this webinar. We offer our sincere thanks to all the participants of the webinar for their virtual but active participation. We hope the participants will be able to take home some valuable inputs on the sustainable technologies and rural development from Gandhian perspective. We also thank all the viewers of the webinar. At the end, I offer my sincere thanks to Professor D.C. Baruah, the Tezpur University coordinator of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan and his team, including the technical and media staff, for successfully organizing the webinar. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for delivering the vote of thanks. There's an announcement on behalf of the organizing team. The feedback and the e-certificate link will be shared with all the participants after the webinar in the Facebook, Google Meet, chat, and YouTube. The link will expire after 24 hours, so I request all the participants to kindly fill the feedback form and generate the e-certificate link. Before we declare the end of today's program, may I request one and all to kindly stand for and in honor of the national anthem. Jana Gana Mana Adhinayak Jaya He Bharat Bhagya Vidhata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravida Uttala Banga Vindhya Himachala Yamuna Ganga Uchchala Jaladhi Taranga तब शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तब जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे Jaya 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 He. Thank you so much. With this, we come to the end of today's program. Thank you all for participating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
We can leave now.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaskar. Namaskar to everyone here.